So as a lot of you pointed out in my last video, the X100V did not make it on this trip, and that's because I wanted to shoot a lot more with the Ricoh GR3X and just get really familiar with this camera. And I'm starting to lean towards claiming this camera as one of the best for travel street photography. Today we will be exploring the old side of Istanbul, some of the bazaars in that area. This is considered the more touristy part of Istanbul, but still made for a lot of great photos, which you'll be seeing today. Before we jump into this one, I want to do a real quick rundown of my settings and how I'm using the Ricoh GR3X for street photography here in Istanbul. Might do a more in-depth video on this camera, specifically all the settings, how I have it set up for street photography, but for right now I've been shooting strictly in program shift. I don't think I've really changed it once since I've been here, and I think that says a lot about this camera's processing power and its ability to come away with a really good exposure without really any effort at all. In terms of my metering mode, I've been bouncing between highlight metering and multi-segment metering. I'd say most of the time I'm in highlight metering, but here and there in low light situations, I'll switch over to multi-segment. And for that, I have this side button here. This is the Wi-Fi video button on the left side of the camera. I have this programmed to my photometry switch. Highlight metering is definitely one of my favorite features about the Ricoh. Honestly, every camera should have highlight metering. I don't know why Fujifilm cameras don't have that. There are ways you can set it up using spot metering and auto exposure lock, which is usually what I have set up on my Fujifilm cameras. But yeah, highlight metering, it's amazing. The main function button on the back side of the camera is set to exposure lock. I don't really use this all that often because I'm mostly shooting in highlight metering. This is actually more useful if I were shooting spot metering. I can just point at where I want to expose, lock it in, similar to how I have my Fujifilm cameras set up. Lastly, keep in mind these are my daytime shooting settings, so I haven't really used the Ricoh at night yet, but I really look forward to trying that out and seeing how this camera performs in that kind of setting. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode from here in Istanbul. I'm just going to share some of my favorites from the day and talk a little bit about the experience, my thought process into a few of these photos, and just my overall experience using the GR3X here in Istanbul. I first want to start with this photo. I think this shot right here is probably my favorite from the day. I saw the cracked glass here in front of this bus stop, and I knew right away that, okay, there's a potential photo brewing right here. Unfortunately, we were rushed to get somewhere else. So yeah, I probably would have stayed here a bit longer to get a photo I really liked, but I like this photo anyway. I think this guy here with the beret, if you look closely, you can see his eyes are just like piercing, and it kind of matches with the shattered glass in front of him. I really wish this guy was not over his shoulder, almost photo bombing my photo here. So yeah, I think if I had more time, I'd probably wait around and just get a singled out person. You probably noticed this in the photos I've been taking here, but I'm really trying my best to incorporate the environment a lot more. That's something I do back at home anyway, but I think my toolbox in terms of environment that I can use is sort of running out. Here in Istanbul, it's just like an endless supply of things to work with, and I'm really trying to take advantage of that while I'm here. I think it's definitely brought out the creative juices in me, and I'm really enjoying the photos that I've taken so far. This is another image I like. We took this in this kind of like junkyard area. We didn't really plan on going through this street. It was a little sketchy at first because some people did not look friendly at all, and yeah, definitely not a place that I think tourists really walk through, which is funny because it's like the parallel street to like this place where there's a bunch of seafood restaurants. So you take one street over and you're in this construction junkyard area. In terms of photos, I thought it was amazing. There's just so much color and interesting ways to compose photos in this area. I really like this photo here. It has a lot of layering, and you get this paper material stuff that's in the storefront reflection that I am shooting into, and then you get the reflection of the people behind me, and then also the architecture of the buildings around them, and also a lot of color here, which I like. This is also another favorite that I got, and you saw in the video. This sort of happened spur of the moment very quickly, and I'm trying to get better at making those quick judgment calls of taking a more interesting approach to street photography. I could easily just take a photo of the guy walking towards me, but there's no fun in that. And yeah, I think I did a really good job instinctively seeing his reflection before him, and the way that this plastic tarp covering kind of rippled his reflection in a pretty interesting way. So yeah, I think this photo is a lot better than had I just taken a photo of him walking towards me. As for the Ricoh GR3X itself, it's been great to use. I think it really works well for travel because it's very unassuming, and you look like a proper tourist when you're holding this in your hand. I mean, I have it in this case right now, but there's nothing intimidating about this. It looks like those typical point and shoot tourist cameras that, an 80-year-old dad would bring to Europe. And it can be used as such, but it's great for street photography because you can get in and out of different spaces just a lot more fluidly than if I had a giant camera in my hand, like the Sony or even the XE4. It's a bit more flashy, especially because it's silver. But yeah, people don't really notice this camera and don't feel threatened by it. So that's helped me. I wouldn't say it's helped me take better photos, but it's helped me feel more comfortable shooting in the place that I'm in. And that, I think, leads to me taking better photos. If I feel comfortable taking photos, then I feel more creative. Yeah, I think that's the best way I can describe it. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to sharing the next video here on the channel. Last but not least, thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is a massive online learning community with thousands of online classes taught by creators you know and love. From learning about video production, editing in Final Cut, or even running your own successful YouTube channel, there's a class on just about any topic that you can think of. One of my favorite classes on Skillshare is taught by filmmaker Ryan Booth. I've actually had the pleasure of shooting with Ryan a couple of times in New York City, and he is an amazing filmmaker. He has an approach to filmmaking that I think a lot of filmmakers should learn from. And right off the bat in his class about do-it-yourself cinematography, he talks about the word cinematic and how often that word is thrown around. No one really has a clear definition of what makes something cinematic, but I really like how Ryan defines it. He defines it as intentionality, and he goes more in depth about that. So if you're interested in checking it out, you can try it out for free. The first 1,000 of you to use the link in the description or use the code FaisalWestcott at checkout will get a free 1-month trial to Skillshare.